ages, Bev Francis and Angela Langer and Laura Craval and Vicky Gates and and those women were just something that really excited me because I hate my crime. I don't hate my crime. I know my crime is I'm a muscle person. Smoke. I just get excited about you ladies. I enjoy talking with y'all and get a perspective. So as I said earlier, the divisions have evolved over time. Even if you look at bikini and wellness and figure and physique and men's bodybuilding, it's just the look has changed. And I think the big part of this could be the judging criteria. You think that is?
Yeah. So I think what has happened, at least from my perspective over time, and I'm seeing this a lot more with the new division coming out, is the issue is not having enough divisions, but the issue is keeping the look, keeping the integrity of each division. So then what happens is year after year, people come in and they're bigger and they're leaner and whatever. And then instead of the judges drawing the line at a certain point and being like, hey, you look phenomenal, but for this division, either this is a little bit too big or this is a little bit too shredded. We're going to need you to move up a division. They start awarding that. And so now that becomes the new thing for everybody to chase. And then the cycle starts all over. And it's happened with every single division. So I think right now, a lot of the problem that people have isn't even so much this new division coming out, because the new division that's coming out, it's exactly what bikini was when it started. It's the fact that this cycle always ends up repeating. You end up back in the same problem. And then now we have these really increasingly long shows, when in reality, if we would redefine the divisions and what those individual looks are, we have plenty of room and space. So if people want to stay within a certain look and compete there, they can, and they can improve on that without taking it to an extra extreme. But then if you are one of those people who really love growing and really love coming in leaner and doing all of these things, well then, all right, keep doing that. That's fine. But now let's just move you up to the division where that look actually fits.
Yeah, because she posted this on her IG and I shared it. There's a lot of people who agree with it. Some people have different, because everybody's kind of like, I'm a fist. Me, I'm like this. I'm going to be, as particularly as I say this, I'm going to play the villain. And personally, I'm like this. I don't think that the division is really worth it. It's just too much, as my other guy likes to say, it's too much anarchy and chaos in the one. It's just sometimes this needs to be a particular type of villain that needs to say the truth is that this is bullshit. But you know what? That's just me. So. But what we're gonna do, folks, we're gonna pull up her video where she talks about this, and she gives some good points. And I wish more people, realize that, because you just what are you doing? It's just come on. We're gonna pull up here. And we're gonna jump in her social media a bit, and we're gonna pull up the video. And here she is, and she's talking about the whole issue with the new fit model division. So here we go.
So we have a new division and we see what they're saying about why they're doing it. And I don't think it's going to work, because the problem isn't having another division needed. It's because they're not keeping the integrity of the divisions. I'm going to use WPD as an example. So here's the criteria. I'll let you lead that. But look at this. Not as much muscle as seen in bodybuilding, and not an overly striated physique. So we have our first winner here, Dana Lynn Bailey. She was more conditioned than the figure athletes at that point in time. Clearly didn't have as much muscle. Still very hardworking, still very conditioned. Beautiful look. This is where it started. Now this is where we are. So if you look here, look at the difference between Sarah in this photo versus this photo where she's just won in 2024. The amount of muscle that's been added and the conditioning level, if that's not grainy, I don't know what is. That's bodybuilding conditioning, not women's physique according to the rules. Now they're saying that they want to bring it mainstream. Here we go, 1980s. Corey Everson, absolutely beautiful, had plenty of covers, huge model. I'm pretty sure my dad had posters in his garage. We have Dana Lynn Bailey, who paved the way for women with muscle. And you know what? Still wasn't as big as bodybuilding. And then even on the guy side, I'm going to have an example of Leela Brada, who's on the front cover. But look at the Golden Era guys. You had all sorts of them on covers of magazines. People were interested in mainstream. Problem is integrity.
That's truth. It is, you have to stick with, when you have a plan, and it's the plan that you started out with, don't change midstream. We see problems. Here's the thing is, I'm like this. There's no point. The point is, don't try to bring in another division because just to basically try to cover up for old division that's has evolved. It's like any athlete. Like back in the day, football, you guys used to play with leather helmets. Now you see the percussion helmets. You look at basketball. You look at boxing. Back in the day, you used to fight for hundreds of rounds. They cut it down to 20, then to 15. Championship round is 12. It's 12. Championship fight is 12 rounds. No, and a regular fight is 10. It's just that the athletes are changing and evolving. Here's the thing: is that the officials need to talk to the judges. You're really wasting your time trying to solve this problem. Like, basically, how it's like this. It's a movie called Scarface. I love quote movies. And there's a part where Al Pacino plays Tony Montana. He goes to the Colombians to get the drugs. They kill his friend, and they're about to do surgery with a chainsaw. Oh, so but this isn't what they're doing. They're doing surgery with a chainsaw instead of being more precise. Saying, okay, let's take the criteria that was set. We're seeing women right now who are getting bigger. I interviewed a lady. Her name is Romana Scottsy. She's planning on moving up next year from physique to women's bodybuilding. We talked about this because it's changing. And I think a good example is why the look they're chasing after is because of what self-focus. They could have kept it. Shanique Grant could have still been champion. And they could have, kept that look. But they went with Sarah. And Sarah comes in shredded. Her quads are just sliced like cheese. And then, her glutes are just crazy. I mean, she's got a small frame. I won't think she would be great for bodybuilding because she still got a small frame, but her condition is just too crazy.
Yeah, and like I said, for me at least, like the problem isn't having these differing levels of size and all of that stuff. That's perfectly fine if you want to have different divisions for different looks, and people want to fit into that. That's fine, but then keep that, because I've seen, especially with women's physique, there's a lot of girls I've been talking to lately, and I mean they're retiring because they love the posing part, they love the personality of women's physique, but for them, it's starting to border too close to bodybuilding now. And like that was never a look that they wanted. And they're not interested necessarily in figure. And I hear the same with figure girls too. There will be some girls that are in figure and they love figure, but now things are starting to border to women's physique. So now they're having to make decisions of, if I want to stay here, now I maybe have to take these steps. Now I don't know if that's worth it anymore. Um, and so it's kind of the nature of the beast right now is the different athletes they come in bigger, they come in leaner, are getting, because they're getting awarded for it, that's now the new look. And so now everybody has to chase it. So I could be wrong, possibly, but I do think that if they just kept the divisions at the certain size where they've specified, you can still get a variety of people. People are going to retire. People are going to come in and out, especially if I know in a lot of divisions with posing, we're looking at trying to get posing graded again to where people care about that. So now you actually have to come in just like the fitness girls get graded on their routines, like the divisions that have the posing routines, those get graded. There's plenty of room for people to improve in a skill set in an area without it having to grow to something that it wasn't supposed to be when it first started.
Mm-hmm. And also, one thing about, especially for women, for female bodybuilding, is the expense, because it's way more expensive compared to the men. The guys got to wear a pair of banana hammocks and board shorts. That's it. And the tanning. You ladies, you have to bring in a certain look. Both have both muscularity and femininity. You have to walk that fine line in between. It's hard because back in the day the suits were just nothing fancy. You may have a little something shiny, something a little silk or something a little, like I think that one that Corey wore her last Olympia. It was nice little, it was plain black, it was very shiny, it was nice, And now you're wearing the bedazzled suits, and then you have to have your jewelry, your makeup, your hair. I mean, and then also the other costs of competing, traveling to the shows, especially if you're still an amateur. You had to pay entry fees. Sometimes some competitors would do 2 divisions. I've even known ladies who've done 3 divisions, maybe doing figure, physique, and women's bodybuilding. because they don't want to miss that opportunity. Because hey, you know what? It's like fishing. You just want to throw the line in and see if you which one's the hook.
Yeah, and I do think that that's something that shouldn't be allowed either. Is if you're going to be in a certain division, stay in that. Don't cross over into three different divisions that are supposed to have three different looks and then award the same person. Because then again, it kind of skews the lines of, what are they looking for? I can see it at the amateur level just because sometimes just the competitiveness, the person that shows up, maybe they are actually meant for figure and they get awarded that. But then compared to the girls that show up for physique or bodybuilding, they're just nowhere close to the standard that they need to be. But still, even in general, I just don't really feel like having a crossover ability. I don't really think is a great idea. It's pick the one that you're wanting to compete in and then go for that one.
Yeah, because I interviewed just last weekend Natalie Miller. She won her pro card both in physique and women's bodybuilding. She won the overall for women's bodybuilding, but she didn't get the overall in women's physique. And I remember I interviewed also another lady who did national. She was doing both figure and wellness, and she got a pro card in figure. And I think she's planning on maybe going to future move to physique. And I think one thing I said again about the women don't want to go up because it's just that it's maybe how they look for them. I mean, a lot of ladies don't want to get bigger. They want to stay nice, feminine, conditioned look. But then, like I said, you said, if you still like to train heavy and work out heavy, and bodybuilding is such an influential sport. I mean, a lot of competitors come in and say, "I just want to be a cute little bikini girl," and they say, "No." Seeing somebody say Jessica Ray Padilla, or seeing someone like Natalia Cuejo, or even seeing someone like someone else like Andrea Shaw. They say like, you know what? I don't know if I want to, and I know there's no crossover with that new division, but it won't take it long for those competitors to say, you know what? I don't want to stick here. It's the evolution of any athlete, especially when you're a woman.
Yeah. Well, I think the other part of it too, especially now with any untested organization as well, is not just the costs financially, but then also having to think about the costs from like a health perspective with women too. Because especially at the pro level, you're not going to be competitive at the top without a certain amount of PEDs, unless you have really great genetics and you're willing to work your ass off and wait for multiple years, and most people aren't, um, which is kind of a problem of itself. It's a mentality I've had to break myself out of, but it, it's a lot more, the risks are a lot more extreme for women too, because there's changes that we're going to go through by the decisions that we make. And there are also changes that we're not necessarily going to come back from either.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
not
Mm-hmm.
only is that a reason why people are tapping out is because of the look, but what they would have to give up in order to give that look. And now, is that worth it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it goes back to you ever heard a show called Full Metal Alchemist?
Mm-mm.
Where it's a Japanese anime, and it's about these two brothers. They did some alchemy, and there's a rule in alchemy called equivalent exchange. In order to obtain something of either greater or lesser value must be lost. Now, my way, I said something of either greater or equal value must be lost. And that's the thing is, when you get to sport, you have to sacrifice, like especially women. Y'all have to sacrifice such things as biology. If you want to have kids, you don't have before you get into the sport, it's gonna be hard for you after you have to get into sport. I know some ladies a handful of ladies were lucky enough to get pregnant as bodybuilders, but generally because you change your body and you getting some, as I won't say, people say like y'all ain't trying to be men. No, no, you might get very some masculine, aspects, but you can never be a man. A man's a state of mind. I'm a man, and I don't look like some of those guys that like the Ronnie Colemans or the Jay Cutlers or those other guys. Hey, I got boobs like some women, but you know, but you have to understand it's a sport for passionate people, and you have to accept the sacrifice, the hard work, the consistency, the diet, the training. Like when you're training, what's the thing that you feel like you have to work on the most, and the thing that you need to really improve if you ever want to get the opportunity to step on the stage like an IFBB?
So I mean, just certain growth in certain areas. Like I said, having more cap in my delts, more thickness in my back, bigger legs are never a bad issue. But Um, for me, just kind of the mentality of training in the gym, of a good balance of you need to do things that are effective and efficient, but you also have to be willing to take yourself to you have to be willing to train hard, basically, if you want muscle to grow. And that's really kind of for anybody. If there's kind of a mental place that you have to push yourself into for the last couple reps to really get the most out of them. And it's a hard place. It's a hard place to get into if you're not used to training that way. Usually most people, when they're training, even just from like a general client, they have a lot more that they can give, but just mentally they don't think they can. So either they give up or it gets uncomfortable and they stop. And if you're going to be in bodybuilding, like you also have to train your brain to like go to those places. To really actually push yourself.
Yeah, because that thing is you have to be able to be consistent, be focused, be determined. You know, some days you get tired and you may not want to go to the gym. You might not want to go work out. You might just want to lay in the bed, especially with your hubby, and say, I just want to lay with you, baby. I don't want to go nowhere. But because you want to reach those goals, you have to work at it. Anything worth having is never easy. But like I said, like you said earlier, a lot of young people want everything fast, fresh and hot, ready and fast. It doesn't work like that way. It takes time. You know, it took like Andrea just celebrated her 41st birthday. You know, she's 41 years old. It took her a long time to get to that point. So many ladies start hitting their prime around about, you're in your, early 30s. Maybe you start hitting yours around about maybe 3 or 4 years down the road. But it's a process. And this is why I often said this. It's not about trusting the process. It's about understanding the process. And then when you understand what's all involved in it, then trust it. Because it's so easy for coaches to give you a plan. And everybody's different, especially as again women, different biologies, different aspects. You just can't give the same thing you give to a guy who does 212, you give to a woman that does.
Yeah. And I mean, even the stress factor with women, I've seen this a lot, and even just from my own experience as well. But recovery for women is huge. Like we can't necessarily go in and train as hard and often and frequent as men do, especially if you've got a woman who has a career and has kids and has all these other things where she's stressed out all the time. Because if you're in this constant state of stress, you're not in a mode to actually grow. Like being stressed out, being in a stress state, it's going to inhibit that. And so also striking a balance is, I think this is one of the biggest ones that women can do, is making sure that they are balancing in time for recovery, and not just from a physical standpoint, but making sure that they're finding time to do even small things, just for their own mental well-being. But just because like where your mind's at, the body's going to follow. So if you're constantly going in and beating yourself up, and then you go home and you're rushing around and you're doing all of these things to manage the house, or you got this career where you're working 60 hours a week and you're constantly frazzled, even if you're going to the gym 6 days a week, you're really hurting yourself now more than helping yourself, because you're not allowing your body to relax. You're not allowing it to get in a state to recover and to build. It's always just in this spot of really just, it's more in just this flight or fight state. And we can't grow in that spot.
Mm-hmm. And mention, who's your coach and who long y'all been working together?
So currently I'm coached by Kenneth Allman. We started working together in summer of 2021. And he was monumental in getting me to slow down, because I used to be one of those. I wanted to be in the gym. I wanted to do a lot of volume, really heavy, like all of the craziness. And I mean, there was multiple times over the course of 21 to 23 where he would sit me out of the gym for 2 weeks. Like I would have a lot of stress going on. I would have a lot of different life changes and things that were happening. And he would just flat out pull the gym out, because he would be like, if you go in and wreck yourself in the gym and you're already mentally wrecked from all these different angles, it's not going to help you. And he was like, you need to find a different outlet. And him doing that was actually what led me to getting into posing a lot more, because then that became more of my emotional outlet instead.
That's
So
good. Yeah, it's good that you him have a good relationship. You're working together. He's working with you. I mean, it's like I said, it's a lot, and I often find some people say that they got to find the right person, especially fit their personality. For some people jump from coaches to coaches, but then sometimes it's about maybe the coach or maybe it's just that competitor. And when you work it out, what's that favorite workout. You're just like, oh my God, I love doing it. And that word says, bam, well, I got to do it today.
So anything with back or shoulders, I absolutely love. Um, Anytime that I have to do Bulgarian split squats, I absolutely hate it. Um, they're amazing. They work. I'll do them. But oh man, the amount of anxiety I get before that, just not, not fun.
True story. I interviewed a lady who she turned pro about a couple years ago. She won the pro card both at the Romania Most Fest and wins bodybuilding and wins physique. She's a Bulgarian uh, physique competitor bodybuilder. She loves Bulgarian split squats. She even did it with a wellness competitor. They were doing it together. I mean, it was she said like it's a Bulgarian and Brazilian doing Bulgarian split squats together. That's crazy. So, but yeah, I mean, you have to enjoy this. And also the thing is about the diet also. Like, I know I asked this because I'm a bad guy and I sometimes I like food and then Bob, tell me, where's that thing? At last competition. That was calling your name. That was telling you, eat me, eat me, eat me.
So, I mean, I'm a huge fan of a couple things. Like, I'm a huge pizza fan. I'm a huge Indian food fan. I think we actually ended up getting barbecue after my last show. That was something I hadn't had really just in years. But I think for me, my relationship with food was a lot different coming out of this show, and that's because my food variety throughout my whole entire prep was insane. I had a couple coaches I'd worked with when I first got started, and they had me on that chicken asparagus, fish asparagus kind of diet. And with my coach I have now, like we didn't do that. I was eating fruits. I was eating different kinds of vegetables. If we would take something out because of like digestive issues, that was one thing. But in general, most of the nutrients that I got, we tried to get through food as long as we could. And then as I got deeper into prep, we would slowly start pulling things out and supplementing. But I mean, even when I was probably like 3 weeks out, I think I was still eating like berries and stuff like that, different kinds of fruits. I think at the 3 week point, he probably pulled that out. So for this last prep, I wasn't eating the same thing day in and day out. I was constantly switching meats from beef to salmon to chicken, and we just slowly would take things out, just mostly because of caloric reasons. So fattier meats would go, but it was not because of the food itself. It was just because of fattier meats going to have more calories, and we were just at a point where we had to cut the calories down a bit more. So yeah, when I came out of this show, like I was excited, I guess, in a way to eat food, but I actually was feeling pretty good in comparison to other years. And I think it was because we had so much food variety in that I think my body was a lot more better fueled. And it was the leanest I'd ever got too. So if people say that, you can only eat asparagus and tilapia or swyfish to get lean, like it's false. It's absolutely debunked.
Yeah,
So
that's good. I know somebody says that they don't like fruit because it causes inflammation. Chicken is generally the main thing on every diet. Not too people don't eat a lot of pork because it's high in fat, but you need those fats because food is a weapon, a tool for a bodybuilder. It's just depending on what you eat and how you grow. You just can't just. Like, I remember one lady say before her show she had gelatos, and it's not good for you. And everything that is part of the process is a necessary needed, and also working with the right people with your diets and everything else and macros and all that. There's so much involved to a lifestyle for a bodybuilder.
yeah, I would say like if you're going in, especially as a competitor, if you're going in and you're searching for a coach, it should never just be I say you follow no matter what. Like if it's one of those kinds of coaches, or they're the coach that, well, my way is the only way, and they have their way for every single athlete, men or female, like across the board, different ages, different circumstances, run, absolutely run, because it's not. I mean, all humans are a little bit different. They have different variables in their life, and all of that goes into competing. So if you're going to find a coach, it needs to be somebody that you can actually work with. If you have questions, they need to be able to answer them with more than just because I said so. Like they need to be able to back it up. They need to be able to send you evidence to look at, because that's just part of gaining trust, right? Like you're allowing this person to do something with you that's very, very, very extreme. And if not careful, it can have really terrible results in the long term. Um, so they have to, like, yes, you need to follow your coach's advice, but at the same time, if you have a coach that's kind of a tyrant and doesn't listen to you, like you need to move on. You need to find somebody else, especially for females. If you're starting PEDs, you've never used them before, and you're starting, like you need to be downloading a voice app, and you need to be recording yourself every month as well, because sometimes you'll have these subtle little changes, and if you're not monitoring it and you hear yourself every day, you might not catch it. So that way, if there's changes that are starting to happen because of the drug use, you can bring these back to your coach and be like, hey, before this becomes a huge issue, I'm starting to have some issues with this. And then that way you guys can come up with a different plan. If you have a good coach, they're going to tell you these things. They're going to set you up for this stuff, especially if that's something that you really care about. If you don't, then that's another story, and that's to each their own, and that's their own prerogative. But if you're going into the sport and you're trying to make it at the top, and especially if something like that comes into play, like you have to have somebody that's looking out for your best interests in the long term, and not just using you as an athlete that they can put on their resume.
Yeah, like you do need a plan, especially you go into. You need to find the right coaches. You got to find what works for you. Don't just jump out there fully without not knowing what you get involved to. But the other guy says, like, I never have a plan. How he says this? He says he's just a dog chasing cars. He didn't catch when he didn't know we're doing it, so he doesn't have a plan. And that's good. Now, also you said before you were sponsorship. That's one thing. Sponsorship does help. Are you still a sponsored athlete, or everything's on your shoulders?
No, I right now everything will be paid. Actually, my husband and I make a joke because he says he sponsors me. So,
Well, he's a man.
in a roundabout way, I have a sponsor. But no, I had a suit sponsor for a while, and then just now with where I'm at, I'm waiting. I'm basically waiting to get on stage. Like I'm still working. There's still things I want to do with my physique. But there's a very certain specific way that I want to do it. There's changes that I absolutely will not compromise on. And so that's going to take a lot of time. So, when it comes to suit sponsors and stuff, like I'm not really in a place to really promote their products anyway at this point. So yeah, so right now I'm not sponsored.
Yeah, that's the part. Like I said, that, like your husband, he's supporting you. He stands by you. That's a good man. That's a good man. You got a good man, Robbi.
He's great.
And yeah,
I'm a lucky lady. So
and also, like, some people, especially with your family, they understand what's involved in it. I mean, especially when you got into when you were young and your parents were like worried about, Rob, you already have a brother. You will need another boy. Yada yada yada. But you have to understand, you love what you love, and you have a passion for it. And sometimes things change your life, friends, families, everything that's involved. And those people sometimes just don't really understand what it takes to be a bodybuilder.
yeah, my husband, so a lot of people will always ask me, they're like, oh, is he a bodybuilder? No, absolutely not. He wasn't into it, never really heard much about it. He's a pilot for American Airlines. So when we started dating, like officially started dating, I was already in prep. So the first 6 months of our relationship, I was getting ready for a show. So for him, it was a real deep dive into the competing atmosphere. And even now, like he's starting to understand some things more, but in general, like it's not for him. He doesn't get it. But especially from collaborating with other friends around the world and getting into the posing side of things and other opportunities that's opened, even though he doesn't necessarily fully understand it, he sees how much I love it. And so he supports it, and he tries to do everything that he can to push me forward, to get where I want to go.
Yeah. Well, to your husband, thank you for his service, as a, flying planes. I never been on a plane in my life. I got a friend of mine. He says, George, I'm going to do a show. I want you to fly out. Oh hell no! I don't know. I'm not ready for it. You have to do like Mr. T in the 18. That was before your time. You remember that show? And he used to put something in his drink and stuff like that. And he said, "Hey fool." So, but yeah, I mean, it's good you have that because people always making these assumptions about you with it, and I hear it from the ladies themselves. I've seen it where like try to be a man, try to be this, try. No, you're an athlete and you love this sport and you're passionate about it and you want to be, your best representation of yourself. And yeah, you don't want to do too far because you don't want to go in and say, I just sound like Danny Boo. Now it's like I'm Vin Diesel, Fast and Furious, you know, 500, 500 fights, but that's all depending on where that person wants to go. If they know the limitations, that's good. And I would say this sponsorship would really help a lot of competitors. If one thing, if I could do, if I was somebody, I would love to say sponsor you, but you have the real guy. Hey, Robbi, I saw you posting. You're kind of cute. Yeah, so your husband is a pilot, so you won't mind doing the Maha. No, 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 no. People, stop that. Stop that. Be like this. Mrs. Carlson, we are interested in you. We love your energy and your perspectives on bodybuilding, and you have just a particularly great personality about yourself. So we have a product. If it works with you and your training and what you want to go with and your goals, we'd like you to be one of our brand ambassadors. So let us know, and anytime you're ready, we'll save things up for you and we have a great future for you. And we'd like to see you grow as an athlete, other more than that. So Mrs. Carlson, will you ever be interested in working with our company?
Yep, and I would be certainly interested.
Well, thank you. So, sign a contract, baby. So folks, we're not going to hold much too longer. This young lady took some time out to talk with me. She has some great perspectives. I think she has a great future, whatever she's doing. She's also a coach. Are you have any clients right now you're working with proposing, or just
Yeah, so I've got